My name is Itofa Ivarah, and I'm currently the GC officer for Oxfam Ireland. And just at the start of the year, Oxfam had launched its Global Citizenship Education Program with the help of IDEA. And we created this special program we call the Global Education Movement. So GEM within Oxfam Ireland is our GCE program. But what makes this program really special is that it takes a natural tangent from the typical GCE program you would usually experience. We found a very huge gap that I'm going to talk about later as I move on through my slide in in the sector. We found out that we have a lot of secondary school, primary school, and post-secondary school GCE education, but we didn't have anyone that was really focused on community education. And Oxfam, having a network of 45 shops across the island of Ireland, decided that, what, we're going to leverage the strength that we currently have, which is the fact that we have, local partnerships, local knowledge across the island of Ireland, both in the north and in the south. And we launched our global education movement, and that's been a really exciting project we've been going on. So you would hear me talk a lot about GEM as I go on. GEM simply means Global Education Movement, and it's our GCE program within Oxfam Ireland. So at the start of the year, we launched the Minister of International Development and Aid, Foreign Affairs rather, Minister Neil Richmond, launched the GCE program for us in Wexford Upper House at the start of the year in January. And that marked a very significant step for us within Oxfam because we had worked with a consultant, Dr. Lauren Tansey and Dr. Maria Gallo, both from NUI and University of Trinity Business School. They helped us work with a proposal that informed the delivery of our GEM program. Now, within Oxfam, GEM is a significant project that allows us to interface with the public. I'm also going to talk about the content as we move forward. So we have the minister on ground. We launched this amazing project at the start of the year, and it's been going really fantastic. Now, for us at Oxfam, GEM is so significant because it covers a major gap that we have noticed, which is community education. Now, our methodology in delivering GEM, and this is where IDEA comes into play, how the IDEA code of good practice has really, really informed how we deliver it, is the fact that we based our delivery on a concept called the Paulo Freire theory of conscientization, or the Paulo Freire's praxis and action theory. It's just academic terms for in GCE. And the idea was that, is it possible that if you take a group of people and you inform them about some of the challenges happening globally around the world, but you don't stop there, you take it a step further by seeing how do you spark empathy in their heart? Again, not stopping there, moving a step forward and asking how do we cause these individuals to take action? And through these three pillars, we built GC theory of change around that. And in our workshops, what you would typically notice is the fact that we help participants focus on the root cause analysis of the problem we're addressing, whether it's economic inequality, gender inequality, whether we're looking at climate justice, climate financing. We make the participants look at the root cause of that challenge. And while we're doing that is because we want to take a step away from the traditional banking model of education where information is just hauled at people. So when you call for a workshop, we just hold this information at individuals. We said to ourselves, is it possible that aside just giving them the information, how do we spark empathy in their heart? How do we cause them to now take micro action, whether it's at a micro level, policy level, or even a community level? How do we cause them to take action? And that's what the theory of change is built upon. And so when we walk into a community, using the idea code of good practice, the first thing we ask ourselves is, what are the dominant voices in this community? How do we bring alternative perspectives to the conversation? A practical example is when we had our a session in County Down Hollywood. It was a very remote community over there, and we were talking with the community. We knew very well that we couldn't educate them about what was happening in Gaza without bringing a first-hand perspective into the conversation. And we had Bushra Khalidi, who's an Oxfam policy consultant in the Middle East, who came into that conversation, and he talked about the real first-hand experience people were having in that conversation. Just recently in Fipspur as well, introducing multiple perspectives to the conversation, we had Michael both from South Sudan who came into the conversation to introduce our participants to also the struggles of the lived experience of people in South Sudan. Now, the idea for most of this workshop is to build local to global connection. How do we introduce these participants and help them see that what's happening in Ireland is not isolated from what's happening around the rest of the world? A significant push or a significant contribution to change in Ireland also has a global ripple effect. How do we how do we bring this conversation to the people? And so we built our theory of change around that, ensuring that communities see themselves as change agents, equipping them with the requisite skill to deploy this change that we're having in the sessions, and finally showing them what change looks like if they just take a step. And that's pretty much what our theory of change is built upon. Now, when we go into communities to deploy GEM, we typically would have 4 sessions, across the different counties we've been going to. So we've been in Hollywood, Wexford, Pittsburgh. We have 4 major themes we focus our conversations on. The first one is typically the local to global connection. Now, within GCE, we have what we call interdependence, where we try to help the participants in this workshop realize that anything that happens in Ireland has a ripple effect in Bangladesh. And the case studies, climate, you look at climate action. The people who are suffering the brunt of climate change are people who have contributed the least. If the world wasn't interdependent, will that be the case? And so we open these individuals who've never, learned about these concepts before. We open them up to that reality, and then we now equip them with the skill set, which I'll talk about as we move on. Second one is climate justice. And so in Southeast Technological University, we had a partnership with that institution in Wexford. And what we did there was have a session that was led by Michelle Maher, talk about climate justice, but not just as an abstract concept to the individuals, but what everyday people can do by small behavioral change. And one of the remarkable stories from that workshop was an 85-year-old woman who had walked into that workshop, and she said, after the session, we were having a conversation with her, and she said, you know what, I feel really old and frail, and I just look at how the world is just plunging into destruction, and I can't really do anything. But this session you guys have had today gave me a spark of hope and made me realize that I can be a change agent as well. And for us, that just is the crux of why we're doing, these educations around the, island of Ireland, to help most people who feel really insignificant in their community understand that power is really in their hands. And so we have an activity we carry out called the Power Walk and the iceberg model that we try to simulate in this workshop. And the idea is to see how can we help these people understand that the problems that they think is actually the problem is only a symptom of a larger problem. If we help them identify what the root cause of climate change is, if we help them understand what the root cause of the homeless crisis is, if we help them understand what the root cause of climate financing not happening, or why there's still gender pay gap, if we help them understand it, they may have the agency to drive change. Another part is understanding inequality, where we also get um, my colleague Bryn McGrath takes that session, and she basically walks participants through inequality, both in economic inequality, using our Oxfam wealth inequality report that we publish every year to educate people, and they'll have session on those areas and really talk about key themes and what individuals can do by themselves as well. And then we have exploring GCE, which is also another critical part of IGS Code of Good Conduct. And one of the good practice we had adopted from IGS Code of Good Practices at IGS that multiple perspectives have to be involved in delivering our GCE, number one. Number two, we must help them identify what the root cause is. And so we call that the root cause analysis. And then number three, critical thinking has to be an integral part of these workshop sessions. And what we've discovered is that when we roll out the workshops, or you walk into a typical Oxfam workshop session, you wouldn't find an Itofa speaking, you wouldn't find a Brit McGrath speaking, it's a conversation happening by the people who attend the workshops. And so we found out that when give you show agency to the individuals who attend the workshops, you foster critical thinking. They have the power and the agency to drive change by themselves. And so these four things are areas that we focused on in delivering these workshops. So typically we would have 4 sessions in every county we go to. And we had one in County Down Hollywood. We had one in Wexford. We had one with the Wexford Local Development. We had a partnership with them. We also had the Southeast Technological University in Wexford. And recently we just finished in Phipsborough as well. So we would have 4 sessions in these different locations we go to, and it's usually very fun and a great way to meet the people in the community. Now, the workshops that we've done so far, we've had a lot of learnings that I've taken away from these workshops. And one of the first learnings is the fact that it's really hard to penetrate this community. And so even though we have the leverage of having a network of shops across the island of Ireland, we've discovered that without local knowledge, it's hard to penetrate these communities. That's one of the first learnings we've taken away. Secondly, we've also discovered that it is critical that local partnerships are involved in delivering and deploying these workshops. For the workshops to have effect and significant change, you must have local partnership. And those are the two key learnings we've discovered as we're iterating this workshop. Because right now we're rolling our next sessions in Limerick, Galway, and Cork. And we're trying to see how do we foster those partnerships, how do we get engaged with the communities and ensure that we're able to deliver remarkable sessions. And so what you see here is the workshop sessions we've delivered across Wexford, Phipsborough, and Hollywood, the 3 locations we've just finalized. We're currently on a break and resuming back in September, and ensuring that we have really good sessions. And I think my ask for this in this knowledge and sharing session will be, if you have local knowledge within Limerick, um, Galway, or Cork, I would really appreciate, even a chat or a recommendation, or you have, you're happy to, you want to partner with us for us to bring this, whether it's to your organization, to your center. We're very happy to partner with that, to make that happen. And so typically these workshops, you would have a varying age of people coming to the workshop sessions, and it's usually very, very, very remarkable. And that will be the entire presentation. Feel free to, write to, Gem at Oxfam Ireland. You can connect with us on there. You could also write to me personally. Always happy to grab coffee, always happy to hop on a call, and see how we could partner together, work together to make something significant. And that will be the Global Education Movement session. Thank you very much.